yourself, though. Sorry.
Welcome to Political Beatdown. I'm Ben Meiselas, joined by Michael Cohen. Before the show, just so people know, it's basically Cohen roasting me and making fun of me, and then we go live, and you catch the tail end of the abuse right there. I'm only kidding, but we get along great. All right, let's get right into it.
That's because he and the boys treat me like the redheaded stepbrother from the movie Step Brothers. And I said to him, if you touch my drums, I'm gonna beat you.
And for a point of clarification, the Midas stands firmly behind all redheaded stepbrothers. Be very clear where we stand on that debate. We'll start off with alienating Cohen from more Midas Mighty. All right, let's get right into it, Cohen, and talk about some really bad economic data. In all seriousness, some bad economic data. As California Governor Gavin Newsom says, Donald Trump's America, the announcement, U.S. companies, private sector only announced 1,494 new jobs in August. That's the lowest for the month, for any month since 2009. What happened in 2009? Great Recession. Layoffs surged 39% to 85,979. There's a lot of reasons for this. Trump's disastrous tariffs against the world, creating economic calamity here. The uncertainty by Donald Trump waking up, and is he going to post a photo of Rosie O'Donnell and try to fat shame her today? Is he going to do a sumo wrestler of overweight people? Like Donald Trump thinks that he's like the most in shape fit guy in the world. I hate to break it to you, Donald, but you know, at this point, governor of Illinois, Pritzker, like weighs less than you. So not sure why you keep making fun of Pritzker, but that's what, you know, what's he going to do? It's creating such a degree of instability. And while that's and the other major reason too, AI. I mean, this needs to be talked about a lot. I mean, AI poses an existential threat to workers out there, especially Gen Z, but all workers right now, especially as Trump has removed any semblance of dealing with this in an equitable manner, which is how government should be dealing with something like this. So, of course, what do we need to do at the White House? What was the big event at the White House today, Michael Cohen? You had Melania there, who still really can't speak English. I mean, it's as choppy as you get. But the point that she's making, she goes, the robots are here, the robots and the AI, and I put out an AI challenge to everybody. This is what they're doing today.
That's so wrong on so many levels.
The impression was wrong?
She's from Slovenia. I mean, you know, she has an accent. My father, who was born
first to go after the redheaded stepchildren, now you're a Melania apologist.
I mean, I'm not thinking about what she's talking about. I'm talking about the accent. Many people have accents in this country.
Michael
but by the way, you're right. Wait.
Doria
is right. You sounded like Adam Sandler there doing his yarmulke.
I just want to be very clear what just occurred. Michael Cohen is calling me out for giving accents of people and mocking them. Okay, Cohen, let's play this clip.
I love you, buddy.
Cars now steer themselves through our cities. Robots hold steady hands in the operating room. And drones are redefining the future of war. Innovations of first-generation humanoids, factory automation, and autonomous vehicles have surged from private sector investment. Every one of these advancements is powered by AI. The robots are here. Our future is no longer science fiction.
The robots are here. I
very much want to say to you, Ben, that it is very wrong that you make fun of my accent, and I do not care what anybody, especially you, thinks about it. Just so you know.
And while you're at it, please buy my meme. Please buy my meme coin.
And my caviar infused facial cream, which is what gives me the beautiful glow that I have. Did I say glow? I meant glow. Right, just under my face, along with my beautiful jewelry.
Just go to Melania Trump. I do the first AI book that was ever in AI. But she bragged, Cohen, she bragged that her book was AI. Like, I'm not sure that's a brag. This is the first AI.
You know what's crazy, Ben? You know what's crazy? I'm going to give you a little inside info. This is really true, by the way, too. So she's talking about these autonomous robots, the ones that are AI generated, that coming out of China now, incredible robots with all sorts of obvious features and abilities far beyond what you would expect from, let's just say, a blow-up doll. And the Chinese are very interested in getting their hands on all of the information that they used in order to make the Madame Tussauds wax figure of Melania, so that they can actually have a Melania Trump inspired autonomous robot. Ben, depending upon the price, I may end up sending you one.
I'm going to respectively decline whatever plans you have for me, China, Melania robots. I'm gonna stick to staying in my living room and recording 18 videos every day. Seems to, since I left the law practice, this seems to be working. So I'm gonna stick with this. Look, you mentioned rowboat, so my mind, goes right away to thinking about a serious topic that I wasn't going to bring up until the second segment of the show, but let's bring it up now. You didn't bring up rowboats. Melania talked about boats.
I said a robot. It's
So,
not a robot, not a rowboat, but a robot.
A serious issue, though, is that, the United States military sent 4 of our biggest ships off the coast of Venezuela, a nuclear submarine as well, other support vessels. And Donald Trump posted a video in the past 48 hours of the United States government, in Trump's word, murdering. Trump says 11 people. I count 3 people on this fishing boat, but he says that 11 people got killed. And it's a small fishing boat. By all accounts, this can't be bigger than a 16-foot boat. It's a teeny tiny fishing boat. Doesn't have the fuel, just based on the size of the boat and geography, to get from Venezuela to the United States. Rubio says this boat was first going to Trinidad, but Trump and the regime says it was coming to the United States with all of these drugs, and it's Tren de Aragua. Common sense also tells me that Tren de Aragua would not use an open fishing boat and just stack up the cocaine or whatever the drugs are, like in the open fishing boat vessel. I think they have more sophisticated means in order to smuggle it other than that. But while you have this show of force military parade in Tiananmen Square in China by Xi Jinping with Putin and Kim Jong-un, and they're showing that aggression, Donald Trump, and by the way, Prime Minister Modi of India was there. You have the United States blowing up a fishing boat, the president of the United States, posting it from his official account. Like, could you imagine if any world leader posted from their official account? It was right in between Donald Trump posting a photo of Adam Schiff with the pencil neck, and in between Rosie O'Donnell AI blown up. Donald Trump posts, "Look who we killed. Everybody, look, we just murdered these 11 people." Now, let me be clear about my position, then I'll pass it to you. Drug dealers deserve to be met with the full force of the law of the United States. If these drug dealers also have weapons and they're out there in an aggressive manner, shooting people, trying to kill people and do things like that, I understand why you'd have to use a lethal force to stop these people. But the idea of the United States government going around and killing people in fishing boats, even if it was drugs, which is unclear to me what the hell this was. To me, even if it was drugs, you don't play judge, jury, and executioner and kill the people. one of the things they say, Cohen, is that Tren de Aragua engages in human trafficking, right? We know that they do. And how do we know that there was not on that boat a victim of the human trafficking being, if it's Tren de Aragua, and that someone there wasn't forced to be there against their will? So to me, this is a story that the way I dug into Epstein stories 5 years ago, I'm not going to let this story get away from us, because I think we just killed 11 people. We're just going to kill people, and Trump's going to repost the killings.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. And I'm very, very concerned. And I would like to be able to, which I'm sure we're going to get basically around the same time that we get the full unredacted Epstein file. I'd like to see the information, the intel on how they know that this was a drug smuggling vessel. I would like to know. On top of that, is there not an easier way for us to take control of that vessel and the individuals on it other than shooting it and blowing it up? Could we not have at some point in time intercepted it, as we generally do with other sorts of vessels that are, let's say, equipped with fully automatic machine guns across the entire sides of the vessel? I don't believe, based upon the look of the vessel, which I think was like a Boston whaler, that they use Boston whalers or those types of vessels for the transportation of narcotics. I just don't see it. And like you, I was a little bit curious as to where the number of 11 came from. The boat is not of the size within which to have 11 people on it. It's just, again, there's so many questions that now come out simply because something, Ben, you and I and Midas Touch Network talk about all the time. Facts are facts, okay? When you have a boat, and we are all seeing the size of this vessel, there are photos of it. We do not count 11 heads on that. Now, if there was a, let's just say, lower level to this boat, which there is not, well, maybe they were underneath. I don't know. Is there a storage bin in this thing? I don't know. But as this John Jackson turns around and writes, 11 people, a missile strike. Seriously? To me, this is fraught with so many now questions that are going to spur on so many, conspiracy theories. Oh, yeah, they were trafficking in $1 billion worth of fentanyl, or they were coming into the country with, 800, members of Tren de Aragua to take over, I don't know, Long Island, that they're going to take over Massapequa, Long Island, or someplace, out there in the North Shore. It's all insane. Just show us some proof that what you're saying is accurate based upon the photos, based upon just the information that we are able to deduce from our own eyes. None of this makes any sense at all.
And
so I'm with you on that, Ken.
And then even if it was accurate, even if you accept all of the representations that they say as true, why wouldn't you try to intercept it with a boat? Why wouldn't you try to stop? Why is the first reaction from the United States government to not just kill, but then the president, right? I mean, the president, this is, children, elementary school, we're all going back to school now, in middle school, right? I remember you go to class, you pledge allegiance, you're supposed to look up to this person. This is the person posting execution videos like ISIS used to do on his social media platform, in between doing photos of Rosie O'Donnell saying, look how ugly she is. She's ugly and fat, everybody.
So Ben, that Rosie and I are friends. We speak. I care very much for her. She calls me on a regular basis just to see how things are. I haven't spoken to her in a little bit since she made that big move out there to Ireland, to Dublin. She does not look like that at all. And again, it's extremely insulting. You don't, as a man, forgetting about the president of the United States, right? This is so beneath him. It's so beneath any man to turn around and to do something like that and to make fun of, of a woman's looks. She's a good person, and she is extremely concerned about this country and about the direction that this country is going. She's a good person.
Here's the thing too, to me, that makes Donald Trump particularly just a pathetic individual. And this is why when I hear, guys my age or younger, think this guy's a tough guy, like Trump never says it to anybody's face in public. Like it's always, a social media post, Gavin Newsom this, Newsom that. He posted the photo of Gavin Newsom wearing a Trump 2028 hat. And then he goes, Newsom does weird things with his hands. He's got like weird hand things. It's like, Donald, like literally your hand looks like you dipped it in a freaking pool of piranhas and they've like ate you up, and you are like you have piranha hand, Donald. I'm not sure you should be saying that Gavin Newsom's hands, and not to mention your accordion hands that you do with everything. But look, when Newsom and Trump were together, when they had that interaction, Trump was doing Newsom. Okay, well, you're in front of him, Donald. You're in front of all of the cameras. Why not use that as an opportunity, if you're a tough guy, to show how tough you are, and go do your routine. Do it in front of the cameras. Let's see it, tough guy. And same thing with all the world leaders that he meets with. Same thing. You talk a tough game, but you show up, and then ultimately you just like whine like a little baby. You like a baby. I mean, with Newsom, stand up. What I saw in that interaction between Newsom and Trump back after the wildfires was Newsom standing taller than Donald Trump, looking down at him, pointing his finger at Donald Trump's chest. And then they all went together. And when Donald Trump went in front of the press, he was like, yeah, he's a good guy. We're doing our best to work together. Like, what? And again, that's why, this is like alpha UFC. Trump steals valor. Even the valor of UFC fighters, which is not the valor clearly of armed services, but he steals the trophy. He's a stealer. He's a predator, right? The same reason he wants to be on stage with the winning World Cup club team and take their trophies. The same way he wants to steal the Purple Hearts for himself. The same way he wants to be around the UFC fighters so he acts tough. He appropriates he like a predator, takes it as his image and then stands like that when he's a freaking weak human being. And so anyway, Michael, let's call you Popak for a second.
Did you call me Popak?
I called you Popak. I'm truly not sure after that where I was even going, other than to say that it's just incredibly weak to see it play out like that.
Yeah. I mean, it let me be very clear on something here. All right. This is not tough. All right. This does not make him look good in any way, shape, or form. And I do think that it is imperative that we, meaning you, Ben, myself, the brothers, Midas Touch Network, Michael Popak, for example, right? All those that are on this platform, continue to speak out, continue to call truth to power, because we are in a world right now that is so upside down. When you turn around and you have women who were raped as children standing on the steps of the Capitol, there is no more beautiful picture to be as far as a visualization than these women standing on the steps of the Capitol, seeking justice for themselves, ensure that their voices are heard, that accountability be had. And what do they get? What do they get for this bravery? What do they get for this act? of defiance to a system that has let them down, they get a flyover by F-16s to drown out some of their voices so that their stories cannot be heard. It's wrong. They're standing there on the steps of the Capitol pleading to the President of the United States to release the information so that they can have closure in their lives, that they can be heard, so that their stories have meaning. And most importantly, to ensure that what happened, and again, I know this from my own personal experience on dealing with the Department of Justice, something that people who survive this stuff want to ensure that it never happens to another person again. And instead of acknowledging their bravery, you get a flyover to drown out the truth, to drown over their words. I felt so bad for them. They were, in essence, victimized for a second time. And that our Midas Touch family is unacceptable.
You know, and it's not really even just a second time. It is every single day. And let's not forget, Donald Trump made this. He made this a part of his campaign promise because he and all of the people close to him, because they weaponized it to go after their political enemies. It's part of the projection that they do because Trump's all over the files, which we know because Pam Bondi briefed him. And we know from what's been released what specifically his role is in the files. We don't know. We can speculate, but we don't want to speculate. We would like to see the files. And not just because of the Trump aspect of it, but because this is a cover-up involving many powerful men, billionaires, who sex trafficked underage girls for many decades. And we as the American public, but most importantly, the victims, and most importantly, in addition, other potential victims right now who could still be victimized by people who are out there. This should be a non-controversial thing.
This should not be a partisan issue. I mean, that's the crazy thing. I don't understand how this is becoming a partisan issue.
Because it's becoming a Trump issue because he's in the files. So, or because we know he's in the files. In what capacity we'd like to see that. I've done 1,000 videos about what's out there already, so I don't spend 10 minutes repeating all of it again. Also protecting friends and people that he knows that are potentially and likely in there as well, other billionaires. But for this issue to be centered around Trump is because Trump is centering it around Trump by saying, I believe it's a hoax. You're calling the Epstein sex trafficking ring where Ghislaine Maxwell was convicted, where Epstein pled guilty. He got a sweetheart deal, a non-prosecution agreement, and was being prosecuted again. We know the undisputed facts. I did a great interview. I hope everybody watches it with Spencer Coven. Oh, Cohen, you got to go. I did 30 minutes because I wanted to get into the weeds and the detail. Coven is this lawyer at a firm called Gold Law. He represented the first victims that came forward of Epstein in 2006. After him, a bunch of other lawyers picked up clients, but he was the first lawyer. He did 3 depositions of Epstein. And I went into the specifics with him. And he told, because I think a lot of the specifics aren't talked about. A lot of what's talked about, release the files, you know, the victims have all things that are needed. But I want people to remember what the hell happened. And he goes through with me how you would have all of these underage girls arriving at the Palm Beach place in taxi cabs, and they would show up, 14-year-old girls, 15-year-old girls, every single day, one by one by one by one. And then he would make them do massages, then sexual stuff at the house. Then he'd call the rich friends, and he would lead this network, this cabal. And the way Coven discussed it with me, is he's like, it wasn't like a list of like, here's the 50 people. It was all of the people who he would call in Palm Beach and the surrounding areas who would be visiting Palm Beach. And he would say, yo, come over. I've got this 14-year-old girl today, or this 15, or, hey, I'm going to send her to your house.
Who would say that? Jeffrey Epstein?
Epstein would say that. And then Ghislaine. And then he had 2 other Russian girls, Kubin told me, who performed a similar function as like a Ghislaine. And he described it as like a pyramid scheme of getting these underage girls. He would use Ghislaine and girls to then get other girls by offering them money, and they would all go out there. And he was like, look, what we learned in the litigation, he said, Ghislaine would go driving around a boarding school going out, or around, a New York school. Like, she'd go to lower income areas in Queens, or, in other areas, and she'd find the girls in their school uniforms. And she would say, hey, if you're looking for a job at a massage, job, here, go take this. So, and Trump saying it's all a hoax. So what's interesting is on Lawrence O'Donnell, I don't know if you caught it.
I did. I watched it.
It was Lisa Jones, a Trump voter.
Right.
I don't know I still don't know how you could vote Trump. No, like, By the way, she also made a statement yesterday, which is something that I hope those of you who had an opportunity to watch it, she turned around and she said, and this is a survivor, that she never came in contact with Donald Trump at Epstein's home, or and so on. Now, again, I have no knowledge whatsoever, which is why it is so important that we as a community continue to grow and to use our influence to ensure that file, along with people like, I can't believe I'm going to say this now, people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massie, 2 people I probably never agreed with in my life. I totally agree. They must release the Epstein files, and all of it unredacted, so that those of you who are Michael haters, who like, oh, Cohen must have done something. Fuck you. I've done nothing, and my name isn't in the file, and it's never been in the file. You can't give the 2-finger salute again to our audience.
I'm not giving it to them. There's better people. There's better people than these idiots. But my point is, none of these questions should be out in the nowhere's land, in this universe of I have no idea. The files exist. The information is there. And all we need is access to it, so that we don't have to engage in this back and forth. It's there for us to know. And I'm telling you, people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who went ballistic today against Laura Loomer, and Laura Loomer against Marjorie Taylor Greene, good. Let them crack their own MAGA base apart, as far as I'm concerned, as long as those files are released to the Congress, to the community, unredacted, so we don't have to engage in this innuendo debate.
I streamed the full press conference, about 90 minutes long, on the Midas Touch channel. We had like 85,000 people concurrent watching it all at once. And then as of now, it'll hit about 1 million views of people watching that press conference. When I was watching Marjorie Taylor Greene's speech, I was like reminding myself, I'm like, you don't like her. Remember, she's Marjorie Taylor Greene. Like,
right.
Still right. Remember, like I know she's saying things right now that you actually agree with, but like you don't like she's a bad person, because the speech that she gave, though, about victims is a speech that frankly everybody should give. Now, right. You can go, Marjorie Taylor Greene's motivations are deeply sinister, and we should view her skeptically because of all the things she's done with Trump. So stipulated, so true.
Yep.
But when I'm watching the literal words, which you have to manage both with MAGA, yes, there are words, but then what are the actions? So, but the words were, and Donald Trump, before she spoke, had an advisor go out and say that the regime views it as a hostile act if you sign a discharge petition for the release of the files. The regime views it as they said administration. I call them regime, just so you're clear. They didn't use the word. I use regime. They said administration. A hostile act to release the files in your custody and control that you said you were going to release, that the sex trafficking victims want released. That is a hostile act towards you. Let me show you what this Lisa Jones said. And a reminder, she voted Trump. Let's go take a look, and then we'll do that.
So I'm going to go off of my survivor sister, Haley Robertson, and I voted for him. I voted for Trump. And for him to say what he's saying is beyond me, because I put my hope in him and he's supposed to protect us. And for him to say that this is a joke and that it's sides, this is not sides. We will say it time and time again. None of us are up there accusing him of anything. There is no one that is accusing him of any wrongdoing. So for the fact that he is saying those things and saying it's a hoax, who are you hiding for then? Because if it's not you, then who is it? And that scares me. Who is it?
We'll take our first quick break of the show.
What he said? Did you just hear the words that came out of her mouth? All right. You know how we're going to know whether or not what she's saying is accurate? That there is, that none of the people turned around and said that Donald Trump was involved. You know how we're going to know whether that's true or not? When they release the file.
And there you have someone who said, I voted for him.
Yep.
And I'm different than, I have a different perspective than her for a variety of reasons, but I believe that he did do some shady stuff. I don't know what I could tell you what his affiliations with Epstein are, but she said, I don't believe that he did, but she does say, well, now I kind of do, because if you're behaving like this,
then you're 100% right, Ben. And let's just go to break while we turn around and we fix our technical difficulties. So please stand by. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Now look, you and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. Look, I'm so excited to see Saquon Barkley take the field this season. I'm thinking in that the first game, he can even have more than one rushing touchdown. Prize Picks is simple to play. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. And if you get your picks right, you could cash in. Prize Picks is also the best way to get action on sports in more than 40 plus states, including California, Texas, and Georgia. Prize Picks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. And you can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. Prize Picks is the best way to win cash this football season. Which players are going off? Which ones aren't? Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your takes into cash all season long on Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to win cash while watching sports. So join millions of users and sign up today. Download the app today and use code BEATDOWN to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code BEATDOWN, BEATDOWN, to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Some mornings, my idea of a healthy meal was staring at a sad piece of toast while pretending protein bars were gourmet. I mean, I've microwaved things that should have come with a hazard warning. And let's be honest, if you've ever eaten a sad desk salad while thinking about, I don't know, how much chaos you're going to face today, you know what I'm talking about. Fall hits, life speeds up, and suddenly, eating well sounds like a cruel joke. But then I found Cook Unity. I mean, these guys are serious, fresh, chef-driven meals delivered straight to your door. Not frozen, not sad, not something that tastes like regret. I ordered a seared salmon with roasted vegetables crafted by Chef Alex Thompson. And you know what? It was perfect. The salmon practically sang. The veggies had the perfect snap, and I didn't have to lift a finger. Every ingredient is handpicked for freshness. Every meal is a small batch masterpiece. I mean, I'm talking Food Network alums, James Beard Award winners, acclaimed restaurateurs, all creating bold flavors and nutritious meals that actually make sense in real life. In the menu, over 300 meals rotating seasonally, updated weekly. And you can filter it by chef, by protein cuisine, dietary needs, even macros down to the gram. Want variety instead of the same boring chicken and broccoli? Done. Want meals in 5 minutes without thinking, chopping, or cleaning? Done. Want it all delivered in sustainable packaging? Yeah, done. And for a fraction of what you'd pay at a restaurant or at the grocery store if you want to cry at the checkout line. But my friends, here's the kicker. You can try it for free. Cook Unity is giving you free premium meals for life when you go to cookunity.com/beatfree or use code BEATFREE at checkout. Free premium meals for life. So stop eating like a stressed intern and start eating like someone who actually enjoys it. Go right now to cookunity.com/beatfree. That's cookunity.com/beatfree. BEATFREE, or just enter code BEATFREE and start eating meals that make mornings, afternoons, and late nights actually worth it.
Cohen, was the line there, stop eating like a stressed intern?
Yes.
That's an interesting phraseology. Stop eating like a stressed intern.
Yes. Yes, I've seen some of those stressed interns. You know,
if you wanted to take a look at my before and after graduating Georgetown Law into 1 year of the law practice, it made the freshman 15 look light in comparison. I go back and look at those first year associate photos, and I'm like, what in the world was it going on there? Speaking of what in the world was going on there, did you catch any of this RFK Jr. Hearing before the Senate today? Did you see some of that stuff?
I watched all of it from the beginning to the end. To say that it was painful, and then when they brought on Mehmet Oz afterwards, within which to make comments about some of the statements that were made by RFK, if you are not concerned about the Epstein files, if you are not concerned about, I don't know, blowing up a Boston whaler, a fishing boat, under the guise that it is transporting drugs or Trendaragua agents to infiltrate the United States, if you are not concerned about, I don't know, AI and tariffs and so on, well, how about be concerned over a guy who has absolutely no medical background whatsoever. He has no scientific understanding at all about what he's talking about. And on top of all of it, affecting each and every one of our lives based upon the fact that they are now going to try to outlaw a mandate for vaccinations that have proven themselves successful over the course of, depending upon which vaccination it is, somewhere between 55 years and 30 years, proving to be absolutely necessary and beneficial to America. To make a statement that we are the sickest country in the world. This is the man who Donald Trump appointed to run HHS.
You know, Donald Trump's getting this whole dictator thing wrong, right? Like, if you look in China, if you look in China with Xi Jinping, right? At least the premise of the dictator is, before me, there was chaos. I'm going to get rid of the chaos and make your lives better, but you've got to give your power to me. And I'm going to build the roads. I'm going to make it better. You may not like some of the stuff I do. I may be horrible. I'm being more than a little bit facetious, but that's the dictator premise. Donald Trump's premise is I'm going to enrich myself personally, make $5 billion off of a new token, World Liberty Financial. I'm gonna improve my net worth, and then I'm gonna screw all of you, including Trump voters. I'm just gonna screw you all. They're gonna destroy the economy for everybody: farmers, factory workers, union workers who vote, anybody who voted for me. If you're on healthcare, health. If you care about your health, I'm gonna make things more difficult for you to exist and to live. And I'm gonna create all of the chaos. And then I want you to love me because I tell you to. And I'm going to sell you a bunch of shit. I'm going to sell you some Trump hats. And you remember me from The Apprentice. I'm reality TV show Donald. Everybody likes me. Or I'm going to do memes. And at some point, and again, corporate news here in the United States, just parrots this lie. It's the worst. It's the literal worst. I mean, you got 100 things he does in a day, in my opinion, is an impeachable offense or 25th Amendment worthy in the aggregate. But he does these things, and then this whole MAGA movement does these things that are like, what the hell are you doing? I mean, you go back in time. In 1991, about 80% of Americans supported child vaccine mandates for like measles, mumps, rubella. Like, why? Because we don't want kids to die. And then guess what? Then if the parents aren't vaccinated, or if the kids are around other kids, they could kill other kids. They kill your kids. Like these weren't controversial concepts. The idea of a vaccine being politicized with a massive amount of disinformation, where RFK fires a vaccination advisory board of top doctors and then replaces them with a bunch of quacks who don't know medicine, who are all these people in these weird far right-wing podcast stuff. It's like, dude, what the hell?
And there was one of the questioners, one of the members of Congress. I'm blanking on his name, but he actually is a medical doctor.
Cassidy.
Right, Bill Cassidy. Now, I was watching it with my father, who's a retired head and neck reconstructive surgeon. My father's looking at me and he was like, that the vaccination for polio came out somewhere in the mid 1950s, 1954, 55, something like that. And since that time, it has basically eradicated polio. Now, I'm very friendly with Congressman Steve Cohen, and he's very forthright when he talks about how when he was a child that he had polio. He was born before the vaccination. And just as I was saying earlier in this episode, people who are survivors of things, whether it's a disease, whether it's, let's say, a violation of your First Amendment constitutional right, whether it is being a survivor of sex trafficking and rape, you don't want to see this happen to anyone else ever again. That's a human reaction. That's what we are, right? Compassionate, to make sure that the plight that you dealt with, somebody else doesn't have to deal with because it is so painful to you. And we have been an incredibly fortunate country. And we have been able to ensure that polio, which is a horrific, horrific disease condition, has basically been eradicated because of the polio vaccine. And now you have this worm brain infested heroin addict that is literally the Secretary of the Health and Human Services telling you that they are going to pass a mandate that states, federal government are no longer going to be permitted to dictate to you the fact that you have to vaccinate your child in order for your child to go to school. So what are we already beginning to see since this stupidity came out? A massive rise in measles, mumps, even polio. And at some point in time, again, people who have dealt with it are turning around and saying, how stupid is this group of people who have no care, no concern for you, for your children, for your grandchildren, for your neighbors, for your relatives, for nobody. And why are they doing this? That's the real question. They've yet to give us an answer.
Well, yeah. And that's my point about the dictator playbook, which is the dictator seemingly wanting to stay in power and avoiding a popular upheaval, at least tries to create the value proposition that I've made it better than it was before. Are you better off? And again, I'm oversimplifying things, of course. But Trump is clearly making things worse. And then he goes on TV and says, nope, it's better. We got $17 trillion, he says. We've done it. The tariffs, me going to the Middle East, we did it. 17 trillion, everybody. And it's like, no, you're making up. We're not stupid. I understand that you have a MAGA mush brain base that buys it, but like that, you didn't bring in that amount of money. You didn't bring in $1 trillion. You wouldn't need to raise the debt ceiling 5 trillion if you brought in 17 trillion. And we would all at this point be actually living in a golden age if you brought in 17 trillion. You're lying. When they go, inflation is down, we're seeing it in the grocery, everything's cheaper. We're like, it's not. Like, I go to the grocery store. Fundamentally, everything's much more expensive. So just shut up. Like, it's just, gas is $1.99. No, it isn't. It's about what it was before. Sometimes it's lower, sometimes it's higher.
$3.15 is the national average.
Yeah, he remember all the drill baby drill. I saw ConocoPhillips in Texas is laying off a huge portion of its staff as well, and we're seeing that happen systemically across the country. But then he puts in like, who's his person there embedded with ICE when they disappear humans? Dr. Phil, because it's got to be a reality show. Who's looking over Medicaid, Medicare, and apparently opining on vaccines? Dr. Oz. Why? Reality TV. So you've got Dr. Oz.
Who's talking about the Department of Transportation?
Another real world road rule. You got real world road rules challenge. The guy who was running around in his like underwear back in the early 1990s on those stupid shows, which I admit I loved. Real world road rules challenge. I watched them all growing up. Some good challenges. Watched every one of them. Anyway, but yes, should not have those people should not have become the Secretary of Transportation. Here's Dr. Oz though saying, yeah, well, I'm supportive of not requiring these vaccines for children. Here, play this clip.
This because there's a lot of discussion about the childhood vaccine schedule. And today there was an announcement in Florida that they will move to end all childhood vaccine mandates in the state. That came from Governor DeSantis this afternoon, and it's in conjunction with the state Surgeon General, Joseph Ladapo. What is your reaction to that? And do you agree with that? Would you recommend the same thing to your patients?
I would definitely not have mandates for vaccinations. This is a decision that a physician and a patient should be making together. The parents love their kids more than anybody else. I could love that kid, so why not let the parents play an active role in this? There are some states now where you're seeing an increase in homeschooling because parents are running from the healthcare system. They can't get healthcare because doctors are unwilling to take the risk of taking care of children who don't want vaccinations because it might impact the way their practices are run.
Quackery. Then you have the Florida Surgeon General. Here's what the Florida Surgeon General, he compares vaccines to being a slave, he says, like slavery. Here, play this clip.
Every last one of them is wrong and drips with disdain and slavery. Okay? Who am I as a government or anyone else, or who am I as a man standing here now to tell you what you should put in your body?
Oh, time out on that one, because two-finger salute goes to that asshole, the Florida Attorney General. First of all, this has nothing to do with slavery, you fucking moron. There's no other way for me to describe you, you stupid asshole. I hope that you're going to show up to the homes of every child who gets sick as a result of this mandate.
Yeah, show up to the polio. Yeah, show up.
Who
No
am
mask.
I to turn around as a man and to tell you, you're the same man, you asshole, that's backing an administration that's telling every single woman that she's not smart enough, she's not competent enough to make a decision for her own sexual reproductive making. All right. That's who you think that you are. So you could tell a woman that she has to carry to term, that she can't abort a child, but yet you're going to turn around and tell somebody that they shouldn't be forced to take a vaccine that's going to prevent them from measles, mumps, rubella, polio, or a whole slew of other conditions that are either life-threatening or insanely painful, that wrecks people's lives. You know, I knew a guy who was older who had polio. And I remember him telling me the story that it really sucked because he was born just a few years before the vaccination came through. And he used to sit on the bench and watch his friends play baseball and basketball, and how he wished he was born just a few years later so that he would not have been afflicted with this condition, with this disease. All right. Unfortunately, he was not, and he suffers even to this day. So to you, you stupid asshole, I hope to God that you make it your business to visit the homes of every single child in your state of Florida that gets sick with measles, mumps, rubella, polio. And I hope that you figure out a way how to apologize to them for your stupidity. But until that time comes, fuck you, you moron.
Well said, Cohen. While we have the audience here as well, I just want to make sure I give you all of the news heading into the weekend, so you're able to, when you see people and you're talking about these issues, you could share with them what's actually taking place. So the Pentagon officials last week informed European diplomats that the U.S. would no longer fund any programs that train and equip militaries in Eastern European countries that would be on the front lines of any conflict with Russia. As this one account, Adrian P. responds, good. I'm confident Europe will be able to protect itself. In the meantime, I'm sure the 77 million dumb Americans who voted for this clown car administration and the 90 million idiots who stayed home in November will suffer way more than Europeans even will. Next time a 9/11 happens or America needs our help, they can suck it and suffer. Try living in a world without friends, you dumb mother effers. And that's someone from Eastern Europe. That's how they feel about us. That's how they feel about us in India. That's how they feel about us in Japan.
Well, how stupid are we? We turn around, we push Modi right into the hands. We push Modi, for example, right into the hands of Putin and China, right? Look at what we're doing to Canada. You know, somewhere along the line, Donald Trump and this administration are absolutely, right? They're absolutely confused about this tariff scenario, beyond confused. They believe, for example, that if the United States doesn't participate, the rest of the world will suffer because of why? Because they won't be able to get whatever goods the United States produces. Let's talk soy, for example. So yeah, the United States used to produce a shit ton of soy, and 90% of it was sold to China. Well, now with all of that going on, China said, fuck you to the farmers, fuck you to America. We're not buying your soy. Oh, where are they getting it from now? Well, they've replaced it. By the way, Ukraine, Canada, other countries. We're not the only country that produces soy. So what happens now? Our farmers now have to suck it up. And in fact, it'll be, once again, the government paying farmers to, prepare the fields to produce the soy, but you're not going to be able to do anything with it. And whatever amount that they're able to do, maybe they'll send it off to Gaza, as some sort of a humanitarian effort. This is so stupid what we are doing. We are pushing our allies into the hands of our adversaries and saying to ourselves, oh, why is this happening? Why are they having this SCO in China and I'm not invited? Why are they sticking their two thumbs into our eyes? What did we do? Well, what did you do? You hit them with a tariff that is completely stupid, that does not do nearly what you think that it's doing, including producing so far $17 trillion. I would like to know what account that is in, because if you check the United States government, you cannot find 17 trillion.
Well, Cohen, I would love if our farmers' produce was sent to Gaza. That would be that would be a great use of it to feed the starving people there, versus American taxpayer dollars going to bomb hospitals in there. I'd say, I'd be happy if that's what the government was doing, but what they're actually going to be doing, if they're going to be subsidizing the farmers, is beyond cruel, which is they've done this before. They take the produce and then they incinerate it, so that the starving people don't get it and the starving people die.
Hey, I was trying to be logical. I apologize for that, Ben. You're right.
They destroy USAID. So ultimately what happens is then we subsidize farmers to grow, and then we destroy what they grow or let it rot. And then our deficit balloons and increases. That's why there's more government spending now by far than there was under Biden. The deficit is on a trajectory that's increasing far higher now than under Biden. And then Trump just goes out there and says, $17 trillion I brought in.
You're all doing great. By the way, you're all doing great. Everybody's doing great. We're the richest country. We're the most powerful country in the world. We're on fire. But before me, we were dying. We were dead. We were going broke. We were going bankrupt. Tell you what we weren't. We weren't hated.
And we weren't going bankrupt. And the dollar. There were systemic issues in our country for sure. There was a real affordability issue that was ignored. There was a real housing issue that I think was ignored. And there was a real border issue that was ignored, in the sense that there needs to be stronger borders. We need to address affordability and we need to address housing. But Americans didn't vote for this. Things are less affordable. Housing is less accessible. Trump mocks low-income housing, and ICE disappearing migrants and citizens alike wearing masks, and military on the street making people's lives more dangerous is absolutely not what people voted for. It's un-American. I think it's frankly treasonous and traitorous, in my opinion. And we're going to keep calling it out here, as always, on the Midas Touch Network and on Political Beatdown. I want everybody, though, to, as you reflect back on this week, Cohen, I actually, with all of the trauma and horrors and everything that's going on, I got to tell you, though, I actually feel momentum, and I feel strong heading into Congress coming back into session right away, demanding the Epstein files, right away getting in Trump's face where he thought that Americans would forget about that, and people aren't buying it. So everybody hang in there in the fight, okay? We're all in this together. We hear you. We're listening to you. We care about everything you're going through. We're going to do our part here to do whatever we can every day to fight for you. You deserve fighters during this time. And this is Political Beatdown. I'm Ben Meiselas, joined by Michael Cohen. A reminder, subscribe to Michael Cohen's Substack. Michael Cohen's Substack Cohen's a great writer. So check out his Substack.
Two-time New York Times best-selling author.
Two-time New York Times best-selling author. I once got a B+ in English class, so you and I are somewhat on par there. Also, but I did get an A+ in civil procedure. How about that in law school? Subscribe to Mea Culpa audio podcast wherever you get your audio podcast. Subscribe now. Subscribe to the Midas Touch Substack. Never a bad day to subscribe to the Midas Touch Substack. Subscribe to Michael Cohen's YouTube channel, The Michael Cohen Show. And share the word. Just let people know what we're doing here at the Midas Touch Network. Share the video I did it with Spencer Kuvin. Let people see that. If they've never seen the Midas Touch, show them the press conference we covered yesterday. Introduce them to Political Beatdown. That's a big way you can help as well. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Cohen. We'll see you
Thank you
soon.
to our Midas Mighty family.
See you next time. Shout out Beatdown Brigaders. Have a good one.
Boom.